We're at Rio Centro, the location for the Rio+20 Sustainable Development Conference. And with me here now to look at what's happening on oceans issues at this conference today is Professor Alex Rogers, who is Scientific Director of the International Programme on the State of the Ocean, which has been looking at all sorts of issues affecting ocean health. The Rio+20 Summit that happened 20 years ago is notable for a lack of words on ocean health. A lot has changed since then. Can you tell us about that?
We've seen, for example, ocean acidification really come onto the agenda of marine scientists and also policymakers as well. This was something in 1992 that we simply weren't really aware of. Now we've realised that climate change has this effect of making the oceans more acidic, and that's something which poses an enormous threat. In terms of understanding the importance of the oceans, we've really come to understand that it's not just the obvious things that are important, such as the oceans as a supply of food for humankind. So, for example, something like 15% of the protein in 3 billion people's diets actually comes from marine fish. So that's a good proportion of the world's population relying on the oceans for a substantial amount of their food. But the other thing we've come to realise is just how valuable marine ecosystems are in other ways. So, for example, actual values being put on the goods and services provided by coral reefs. And this suggests that coral reefs, even though they only occupy a tiny, tiny fraction of the ocean in terms of surface area, actually provide coastal protection, they provide food for people, building materials, of course they're attractive for tourism, and this means that they're worth up to, it's been estimated, up to $375 billion per annum globally.
Do you think that fisheries are listening to scientific advice more now than they were 20 years ago?
I think it depends a lot on where you are in the world, and I think there have been positive changes since 1992. But I think a very sad aspect of looking back 20 years to the 1992 summit is we're still in a situation where an increasing number of stocks are becoming either fully exploited or overexploited, and an increasing number are actually moving into a state of depletion. Something like 1/5 of all the world's fish catch still comes from illegal fisheries. So that's something which we really need to move forward and actually bring to an end. The really frustrating thing about overfishing and illegal fishing is that we do really know what the problem is.
Now, you've been working as a marine biologist with the International Programme on the State of the Ocean, IPSO as it's known. It's a kind of unique project with lots of different inputs. Can you just briefly outline how it works and what it's been telling us?
Yeah, IPSO was really started to look at the oceans in a very holistic way. So we don't just look at fisheries, we don't just look at pollution, we don't just look at, oil and gas exploration or something like that. We actually look at all of the impacts that humankind is having on the ocean, and also look at the interactions between those impacts.
There's been talk of this Rio+20 summit as being the summit of the seas. Do you think that there is enough awareness among politicians, the real decision makers, of the problems?
At this particular meeting, the Brazilian government seemed to have the oceans as some level of priority. So that's very, very encouraging. I hope that there are going to be some positive outcomes from this particular Earth Summit as a result of their efforts and others' efforts as well.
Well, that's why Oceans Inc. exists, and
yes.
We hope to be hearing more from you later on this week. Professor Alex Rogers, thanks very much
Okay,
indeed
thanks
for joining
very
us.
much.